Hello, I was watching FTFE's live stream last night, a response to MindShock's logical analysis, and the bulk of the video was FTFE trying to keep track of all of the different fallacies that MindShock was making. It got me thinking that it was very time consuming and FTFE probably wasn't enjoying trying to count up to 500 in keeping track of what the score was in this 4-hour video. So this video I'm making right now is going to be a response video directed to FTFE, but it's also going to be a much wider video that anybody can come across and hopefully find useful and interesting. As I was watching FTFE, I was thinking he needed a scoreboard. I'm going to expand a little bit more on the various ideas that I had later on, but right now what I want to do is I want to show quickly what I came up with this morning. I created a very simple web page that you can download, save locally, and run locally. And I just put enough in there to make it useful. Hopefully for the next video. FTFE did say in last night's stream as it was ending that he was aware MindShock was making a part 2 and that he wanted to make another response video in a few days to cover the logical analysis part 2 that MindShock was making last night. The time frame I understood was probably this coming week sometime. I don't know if it's going to be during the week or if it's going to be on the weekend. But I certainly don't want FTFE to have to struggle with keeping track of all of the different categories like he was doing in last night's video. Check the description below. There's going to be a link to this page here on my GitHub. When you go to this URL, you should be able to click on the download the raw file button right about here on the screen, and then you should just be able to open it up in your web browser. It's a very simple, plain looking page at this point. I didn't have any time or inclination to make it look pretty, but it should hopefully serve the purpose. And the idea that I had was that you could come along and maybe open the page up in a new browser window. Then you could probably just capture that part of the screen. Let's see if I can do that. Well, I'll just have to leave it like this for now. The idea is that if you load the file up in a browser like how I'm doing now, then you could capture that window as a separate input source, and then you could kind of resize it and move it wherever you want on the screen. And then the rest of the screen you could dedicate to whatever. You can figure that out. That's a separate thing. So when you load it by default, it leaves it as a blank set of categories. There are no categories, so you need to add them as you're going through the video, or you're creating your own analysis video of somebody else's or whatever. I left this as a generic utility that can be used for anything. It doesn't have to be used for specifically a reaction type video that FTFE was making. You could use it to keep track of anything. How many times somebody coughs, how many times somebody tries to clear their throat, how many times they use a specific word, such as when flat earthers use scientism or something like that. So it doesn't have to be anything specific. These are just arbitrary labels that you can apply as you're doing your reaction or analysis video. And in FTFE's case last night, he was counting the number of times that MindShock was making logical fallacies, or I guess fallacies of any kind. Just replaying in my mind FTFE's video from last night, I think the two fallacies that stuck out the most were poisoning the well. So that would be one fallacy. And the next one was an ad hom. By default, I've added a sort mode that sorts the categories by name alphabetically to make it easier to locate them quickly as you're watching the video and you want to tally the score. So every time that they would be saying an ad hom, you just click on the plus button. If you make a mistake, you can just subtract one, and 0 is the lowest you can go, but there is no upper bound. There should theoretically be no upper bound to the number of categories that you add. You can see that at some point you can build up quite a long list of categories with the idea and the intent that it may possibly be a multi-video reaction or analysis, that there might be multiple parts, that you might end up doing this in several videos. I had to account for the possibility of saving the state and then resuming it sometime later. And so I've added this input box down at the bottom. This is JSON encoded, but you can use this to edit on the fly if you really want as well. So at some point, if you get to here and you decide you want to take a break and make another part at some other point in time, all you have to do is just copy the entire content of this input box, save it somewhere else to a file locally somewhere. It has to be a text file. When you're done, you just paste the content back in and then you click on restore. And in fact, what I can do just to show this is if I change this number to a really high one and I click on restore, it basically updates this at the same time. So you can also use this if you want to do a bulk edit. At this point, I only spent a couple of hours working on this page and making sure that everything was working, all of the buttons and all of the actions were working properly. But as I was watching FTFE last night, I was thinking about a number of other features that might be useful, maybe for him, maybe for anybody else who wants to use this as a tool. And so I came up with this basic set of items in a sort of loosely defined set of requirements. Creating a web page like what I did, just a straight standard HTML page with JavaScript, can be functional, but it lacks a few of the advantages of a standalone app. And I think that a standalone app would make more sense. Since we use Java at work, I would end up writing this in Java. It would just be a basic plain Java app. All you would have to do is just install the Java runtime. I think there are even tools that let us convert a Java app into a native executable. So that would be another option. An advantage of a standalone app is that you could create separate windows. The one window you could end up using as the scoreboard, making it easier for whatever capture device that you're using, such as OBS or something else like that. The other window would be all of the inputs and the controls and all of that other stuff that you would be doing off screen. One of the features that I was thinking of was MindShock was adding a score along the way, and I don't know how much effort it took to do that, or for that matter, if there are any tools that let you do that easily enough. But I was thinking if I also store the time elapsed for each score that was clicked, so every time that poisoning the well was updated like this, if I store the time elapsed between each of those and I store all of that, I could add a replay mode that would then allow whoever to create a green screen kind of video that would let them overlay that on whatever reaction video that they're making, and it would make it easier for them to cut and trim out parts of their recorded video that they're making that they don't want, and hopefully make a slightly more polished video of their own. I've got a few ideas how I could make that really exciting and customizable, but I'm not going to talk about that in this video. But I just wanted to point out that there are other options that we could add that could possibly gild this thing and make it quite lovely. Before I even attempt to do a video of this kind, I would like to see what the greater internet community has to say about it, if there is any interest, if people really, really want it. I don't even want to do this if people say it would be nice, but then when I make it available, nobody uses it. So if I were to start writing it, I would expect and I would be insulted if somebody said they wanted to use it and then they ended up not using it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. For that matter, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate the thumbs up, the subscribe, comment below, all of that other good YouTube stuff that we have to do for YouTube nowadays. And I'm going to see you in another video soon enough. So bye for now.